drawback for him is there is an £86 million escape clause for overseas teams from Italy to buy him. So there's a lot of money there. Alvaro Morata from Real Madrid, he's another option. He's not played as often this season. The obvious issue there is that if Manchester United go to Real Madrid and try and sign a player, Real Madrid might come back and say, well, OK, we'll talk about that, but we'd like to talk about David De Gea as well. Manchester United won't want that. Possibly the easiest one is Romelu Lukaku, who we think will be allowed to leave Everton if the price is right. But the issue there is Mourinho has already sold Lukaku once when he was at Chelsea. He was responsible for him going to Everton in the first place. So in all of those scenarios, you can see difficulties, but clearly United need an option because Zlatan is not going to be available to them.
And over the other side of the city, Man City have been linked with Edison Moraes, the goalkeeper. According to Benfica, the deal is done. Is that the case?
Well, if you talk to Benfica, yes. If you talk to Manchester City, no. The issue here is third-party ownership, which has been a thorn in the side of English clubs almost since Javier Mascherano and Carlos Tevez came over to West Ham and created all kinds of issues. That has never kind of gone away, and English clubs are not allowed to sign players who are third-party owned. So they must only be owned by the clubs who are selling them. So Edelson needs, or that his lawyers need to organise his contract in such a way that Manchester City will get sole responsibility for that player for new contracts and obviously to sell on. And until that is sorted out, that deal will not be confirmed by Manchester City.
And one other line from Manchester City today, Yaya Toure has signed a new one-year deal. Let's speak to European football journalist Pete Jensen in Madrid. Good evening to you, Pete.
Hello, good evening.
This has been something we've talked about a lot. Griezmann has made it clear that he wants to leave. What's the reaction been in Madrid to the fact that United seem to have gone off the idea?
Well, they've been too busy really reacting to the transfer ban. It's obviously a massive blow for them. They expected that to be lifted so they could make signings this summer. They now can't register players until the start of next year. So the only choice they have now is to make Griezmann the big signing of the summer, as it were, and give him a new contract. And United pulling out of any attempt to sign him helps that along.
There are plenty of other clubs who would like him, though, I imagine.
There's no question, and he would have been fantastic for United in the Premier League, and it still is something that could happen maybe at the start of the following season. And as you say, there's no question that anyone would take him. And Atletico Madrid, when it comes to selling him, will obviously prefer that he leaves Spain. So it's still not something that I think you can rule out beyond this season. Not going to happen till the start of next season, but perhaps in the future.
In the meantime, it's the Champions League final on Saturday night. Gareth Bale looks like he might miss out, though. He's been struggling with a calf injury.
Well, we saw him in midweek. Madrid had an open media day, and he was very frank, very honest about his situation. He had that operation in November, had 3 months out. He feels that he maybe came back a little bit too soon. And the player that's come into the team in place of him has played so well that you almost get the sense that Gareth himself feels that it would probably be unjust if the team was changed now. That doesn't mean, of course, that he can't have a big effect on the final. We know how good Juventus are defensively. It may take a time for Madrid to break them down. And if Gareth comes on for the last quarter of an hour or whatever, or plays extra time, then he can still play a big part. But I think it's extremely unlikely, almost impossible, he will start the game.
What about his long-term future at the Bernabeu? There was an article in the sports newspaper Marca on Monday saying, and what if selling Bale isn't such a bad idea?
Well, I think this comes from a desire from Madrid to not miss out on Kylian Mbappe. They don't want him to go anywhere else. And there's a sense that Mbappe wants to play. He's not going to go to a club that have got 4 or 5 other forwards, and he's not going to be in the team. So does that mean if Madrid are to win the race to sign him, that they're going to have to make changes and get rid of some of their forward players? If United were to come in, for example, for Gareth and put down as much money on the table as Madrid originally paid for him, then I think Madrid would think about it. The key factor here is Bale himself. He's got no intention of leaving. He says that he remains very happy where he is. He knows that he could walk back into any Premier club. All the teams in the top flight would want him across Europe as well, but he wants to stay. And so I think usually the player decides. So I think he'll still be there at the start of next season.
Thanks very much indeed, Pete. Pete Jensen in Madrid, and you can hear commentary of the Champions League final on Saturday night between Real Madrid and Juventus on 5 Live Sport. That's from 7. Well, it's the Women's Champions League final this evening in Cardiff. Lyon